Today we will be starting with a very new poem. Why I am saying that it is a new poem, because 9th May, 10th May, 11th May, you must have not come across such kinds of poems, poetries, where the symbolic meanings of your poems are too deep. दो आप लोगों का जो बैच था उसके अंदर, इवन दो यू हैड अ वेरी गुड द नंबर ऑफ पोएम्स, एवरीथिंग हैड अ वेरी डीप मीनिंग, येट अब जो हमारे तीनों पोएम्स है, कीपिंग क्वाइट भी हमारा, देन आपका थिंग ऑफ ब्यूटी, एंड लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट दैट इज आंट जेनिफर्स टाइगर्स, दे आर बिट different from what you have learned. Roadside stand lamba hai, the poetry is long, but you will be able to understand. Keeping quiet. Today I am starting with the poetry Keeping Quiet. It is written by Pablo Neruda, and the theme of the poem is self introspection. मीन्स इंट्रो का मतलब होता है खुद को, इंटर अपने आप को, इंस्पेक्ट करना, खुद को इंस्पेक्ट करना. दिस मीन्स अंडरस्टैंडिंग आवरसेल्व्स, अपने आप को अंडरस्टैंड करना, दैट व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम दैट वी आर कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू. खुद से सवाल करना. एंड द सेकेंड थीम ऑफ द पोएम इज साइलेंस. द पोएम डील्स विद the growing global warming. It is dealing with the exploitation of the mother earth. ये जो पोएम है इसका बेसिक आपका जो थीम है वो है कि हम अपने मदर अर्थ को जो है एक्सप्लॉइट कर रहे हैं, एंड वी आर नॉट एक्सप्लॉइटिंग, वी आर ओवर एक्सप्लॉइटिंग इट. And unless and until we are able to understand what is the harm that we are doing to the mother earth and how it is indirectly harming us, जब तक हमें ये पता नहीं होगा, we would not stop harming the mother earth. As the poem, the name of the title says, Keeping Quiet, means it is the universal theme. The universal theme of silence and the sense of togetherness. उनका कहना है that we humans, what we are doing is, we are just working, we are stereotype. हम चलते जा रहे हैं. We don't have any time for ourselves. हमें नहीं पता कि हम इस भागा दौड़ी में क्या कर रहे हैं. What actually we are doing, we don't know. What is the harm that we are doing to Mother Earth? What is the harm that we are doing to ourselves? हमें नहीं पता है. Therefore, what he says is, just जब घड़ी की जो seconds की सुइयां होती हैं, the needle of the seconds, that turns from 12 to 12, यानी कि 1 minute, एक movement, बस उतनी देर के लिए बिल्कुल चुप रहे, बिल्कुल शांत. Then he calls that जब हम ऐसे शांत होंगे ना, तो that environment would be very strange. Why? Because at that one moment, we would not be doing any activity which is harming anyone. We would not be moving our arms. यहां पर बेटा आर्म्स का मूव करने का मतलब है हार्मिंग अदर्स, फाइटिंग, एक्सप्लॉयटेशन ऑफ द नेचर. We would not be speaking any language. यहाँ पर जो language barrier है, that is not only the language we physically we are speaking, but also the language of hatred, anger. He says वो एक जो movement होगा, everything would be quiet. और हम जो humans हैं, हमें शांति की आदत नहीं है. हम स्कूल में रहते हैं तो हमें स्कूल के शोर शराबे की आदत है, हम बाहर जाते हैं तो हमें गाड़ियों की आदत है. तो it would be very exotic for the humans to be very quiet. There would be no noise of any machine. There would be no noise of any engine. There would be a sudden strangeness. He says that one moment, the fishermen जो कि whales को kill करते हैं, जो water के अंदर marine जो ecological balance है उसको खराब करते हैं. Those who are exploiting the fish, they would stop harming them. Those who are gathering the salt, जो कि नमक को निकालते हैं, what happens is नमक आपका खुरदुरा होता है. And if you are keeping salt for more than a time, आपके जो हाथ है ना, that becomes मतलब कि rough. तो वो कहता है कि जो salt है, यहाँ पे salt and fish जो है, they are, उसके दो meanings है. एक exploiting the nature, and second one is the capitalism, exploitation of the rich of the poor. They would also look at their hands which have been hurt. नमक निकाल निकाल के उनके हाथ खराब हो गए हैं. The warmongers मतलब those who advocate war. यहाँ पर war is not only the war weapons. यहाँ लड़ाई सिर्फ वो war नहीं है जो चाइना और यूक्रेन में यूक्रेन और रशिया में हो रही है. Here the war is against the nature. That is deforestation, pollution, use of weapons. हर तरीके से हम लोग जो है we are raging a war again. They would also stop it for a moment. They will understand कि war करने से जीत जरूर हासिल होती है. Victory is there. हमने पेड़ काट दिए, हम विक्टोरियस हैं. हमने न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब बना दिया, हम विक्टोरियस हैं. But we will also understand its repercussions. हम उसके जो आफ्टर इफेक्ट्स हैं उनको भी समझेंगे. We will understand victory with no survivors. We would understand the meaning of brotherhood. हम भाईचारा जो है उसका मीनिंग समझेंगे. Then in the next he says, what I want to say is not total inactivity. मतलब he says that I'm not asking the people to be inactive, because inactive is the symbol of death. Life is what it is about. दुनिया, हमारी जो जिंदगी है वो चलती रहेगी. We cannot stop. We cannot go back to the bygone era. हम पीछे नहीं जा सकते हैं. We need to live. I want no truck with death. मतलब जब वॉर होता है तो क्या होता है, कितने सोल्जर्स मर जाते हैं. Truck with death is a metaphor he has used for the dead bodies that is carried in the truck. He says he is not advocating total inactivity. He says life will go on. That's a law of nature, death and life. But the humans are not able to understand. The humans are not able to understand that they are not exploiting others but indirectly harming self. ये जो हम आज पेड़ों को काटते हैं, ये जो आज हम लोग वेल्स को मार देते हैं, आज हम लोग कहते हैं कि we are indirectly, what will happen is one day we are actually threatening ourselves with death. जब पेड़ नहीं होंगे तो ऑक्सीजन नहीं होगा, पानी नहीं होगा, तो what will happen if the balance of the nature is imbalanced? It will also affect the humans. So he ends up the poem that perhaps the earth can teach us that when everything seems dead, it later proves to be alive. यहाँ पर the poet has personified earth as a teacher. यहाँ पर उन्होंने अर्थ को टीचर का रूप दिया है. He says that like a teacher tells you about the good and bad, the earth will teach you. अर्थ क्या टीच करता है? नेचर हमें क्या सिखाता है? नेचर हमें जो है साइकिल ऑफ लाइफ सिखाता है. When there is complete calmness, एकदम खामोशी है, the wind blows suddenly, it takes the seeds from one place to another. हमें थोड़ी देर के लिए लगता है सब कुछ खत्म, बट वही सीड्स फिर से प्लांट्स बनते हैं, यानी कि द साइकिल ऑफ लाइफ. It is night, then there is day. The season changes, the rotation of the earth. ये हमें सिखाता है that the cycle of life goes on. There is life, then there is death. Then there is life, then there is death. And we humans need to understand this, that the cycle of जो life है that goes on, and we need to sustain this earth. Then in the end he says, now I will count up to 12. You मतलब वो हमें रेसिप्रोकेट, हमें जो है इंट्रोस्पेक्ट करने के लिए, यहां पर इंट्रोस्पेक्ट एंड रेट्रोस्पेक्ट दोनों है. इंट्रोस्पेक्टिस अपने अंदर झांकना, एंड रेट्रोस्पेक्टिस अपने से क्वेश्चन पूछना. He says, you introspect yourselves and I'll go and spread this message to others. So this is the summary of the poem Keeping Quiet. Now I am taking the same poem along with NCERT, and we will also be discussing the important figure of speech as it comes from this poem. We have assonance, we have anaphora, we have alliteration, we have personification. So we'll be moving with that. नाउ वी विल, पहले वो हम लोगों को जो है, ही इज गिविंग द मैसेज ऑफ टुगेदरनेस. वी विल काउंट टू 12. नाउ द क्वेश्चन आपके पेपर में बड़ा ही कॉमन क्वेश्चन है, व्हाई ही इज सेइंग 12 नॉट 13 14 15, क्यों नहीं बोलता है वो? Why he is emphasizing on 12? This is a very first question which comes ki why he says 12. Because 12 are the numbers on the clock. 12 refers to the month, the zodiac signs. आपके 12 महीने होते हैं, 12 आपकी घड़ी में होता है, and the zodiac signs are 12. That is why he says 12. This question came thrice in boards. And we will all keep still. Means हम लोग शांत रहेंगे. Still means we would not be doing anything. For once on the face of the earth. What is the meaning of face of the earth? Means this is actually a phrase. Means on the overall, face of the earth, matlab on the overall, let us not speak in any language. Means the language which becomes a barrier for us. The language of what we call as love, hatred, but we spread hatred more, jealous, anger. Let us not speak that. मतलब हम कुछ भी नहीं बोलेंगे. Let us stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. यहाँ पर move our arms so much का मतलब होता है we would not be doing any harm to others. यहाँ move the arms का मतलब hands का नहीं है, but it is about harming others. It would be an exotic moment. The question comes, why would it be an exotic? Exotic का मतलब होता है बेटा beautiful. And why when we are quiet it is a beautiful moment? Because we would not be harming anyone. उस वक्त में उस 1 मिनट हम किसी को harm नहीं करेंगे. So he is associating it with beauty. Without rush, without engines, we would all be together in a sudden strangeness. मतलब ना तो किसी इंजन की आवाज होगी, ना लोग भागा दौड़ी करेंगे, हम सब साथ होंगे. But there will be sudden strangeness. Means it would be a strange movement. Why? Because humans are not actually familiar with silence. हमें तो आदत है शोर सुनने की. If you, मतलब एक सिंपल एग्जाम्पल है, हम में से कोई भी अगर बहाई मंदिर जाता है टू लोटस टेम्पल, तो वी फील वेरी, बड़ा अजीब सा लगता है, बिकॉज देयर इज कंप्लीट साइलेंस. Humans are more familiar with sounds than silence. So we would be feeling a strangeness because we all will be together. We would not be harming each other. Not each other, neither each other nor the earth. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. यहाँ पर जो fishermen in the cold sea है, this has double meaning. It's a pun. It's a pun. Why? Because cold sea यहाँ पर जो है, it is also for the cold contempt, means the people who are harming others, who are exploiting others, they would stop exploitation for 1 minute. और दूसरा है the fishermen, those who are harming the whales, They would be stopping exploiting the nature, the aquatic life, the ecological balance, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Salt here is also the representation of resources, क्योंकि salt हमें पानी से मिलता है, but in the pursuit of taking out the salt in the capitalist world, we forget that हम अपने आप को harm कर रहे हैं. Those who prepare green wars, यानी कि the warmongers, यानी the people who advocate war in any way. यहाँ पर अगर आप देखोगे तो the war is repeated war, green war, war with gas, war with fire, means pollution, nuclear, biological nuclear weapons, deforestation. Green wars is cutting the trees. Wars with gas is pollution. War with fire is the nuclear war. मतलब हम हर तरीके से we are waging the war against the nature. Victory with no survivors means he would understand that वो victorious है. उसने गाड़ियां बना ली, उसने पेड़ काट दिए, but there would be no one to enjoy these bounties. There would be no one surviving, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. और वो 1 minute, for that 1 minute, they would understand the meaning of brotherhood, fraternity. Clean clothes matlab clean thoughts without any harm. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. The poet is not advocating inactivity or death. Inactivity is indirectly associated with death. So he is not saying that we have to stop everything. Life is what it is about. The cycle of life will go on. I want no truck with death. यहाँ पर जो truck with death है, this is the truck carrying the soldiers. Truck with death मतलब I am not advocating any death. If we were not so single-minded मतलब selfish, humans, यहाँ पर we is used for the humans. If humans were not so selfish about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, मतलब हम अपनी खोज में चलते जा रहे हैं. 1 and for once could do nothing. Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt the sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Means शायद हम इस 1 मिनट की जो खामोशी है, that can make us understand that this is not, we are not harming the earth. We are actually harming ourselves with death. जब ये पेड़ नहीं रहेंगे, pollution होगा, तो what will happen? We would be calling death for ourselves. And the recent pandemic is the example of this statement. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Here he has personified the earth as teacher. He says the cycle of life goes on. Like I said, एक बार जब आंधी आती है तो the seeds go and they become latent. वो बिल्कुल खामोश हो जाते हैं, हमें लगता है वो seeds उड़ गए, but later on they grow into crops. So that shows the cycle of life. The earth, the nature, the rotation of earth, the season cycle, everything shows that the cycle of life goes on. In the end he says, now I will count. शुरू में उसने बोला we will count, but now he has said, now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I'll go. मतलब I'll go मतलब I'll go and spread this message to others. So this is the poem, Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. First of all, I'm writing down the important poetic devices. Then once again, I'll re-revise this poem for you again. Now we will W alliteration. WW is आपका जो है repeat हो रहा है. For ones on the face of the earth is here, the meaning is the world. Means on the face of the earth मतलब let the entire world be quiet. यहाँ पर उसका कहने का मतलब है let the entire world be quiet. Let us not speak any language. Let us not speak, here it is anaphora, because the word let us is repeated in the consecutive lines. In the consecutive lines, it is again and again repeated. It would be exotic movement without rush, without engines. The word without is repeated. We would and sudden strangeness both are alliteration, because in we would W is repeated and sudden strangeness S is repeated. In his hurt hands, the consonant H is repeated. Pun, when we say there are double meanings, the cold sea is for the cold behavior of the rich towards the poor and also towards the fish. Again, war with gas, war with fire is repetition. clothes, when the line moves to the next line without any comma, any punctuation mark, then we call it as enjambment. So if we were not so single minded or about keeping में इन दोनों line में, then again perhaps a huge silence might interrupt the sadness of never ending us understanding ourselves and threatening. उसमें आपका enjambment is there. Victory with no survivors would put on clean clothes. The repetition of the vowel O. Clean clothes is also transferred epithet. Means in clean clothes you have both alliteration because the word see is repeated, as well as the inner meaning, that is transferred epithet. Clean is adjective and clothes आपका noun. So here the clean clothes का जो meaning है, that is clean thoughts. The clothes here is not referred to the clothes we wear, that is about the thought. That is also आपका transferred epithet. So you will be having different kinds of poetic devices in this poem. We will, then if you see, it is alliteration, W is there. Anaphora because letters जो है वो आपका repeat हो रहा है. Then not move जो है इसके अंदर आपका again assonance is there, the repetition of vowel O is there. Without rush, without engines, That's the repetition of the word without. We would and sudden strangeness is having the alliteration. Then fisherman in the cold sea can be a pun and also transferred epithet because cold is adjective, sea is noun. His hurt hands is आपका alliteration. The word H is repeated. Those who prepare green wars with gas. The word war is repeated. Victory with no survivors. The vowel O is repeated as on ends. Clean clothes can be alliteration as well as transferred epithet. Personification of earth as a teacher. Then we have enjambment. So these are some of the poetic devices that we have in this particular poem. Now I am once again taking this poem for you. This is about the theme is आपका introspection, retrospection and silence. The theme goes with introspection, retrospection and silence. The poet wants to, अगर आप यहाँ ऊपर पढ़ोगे तो यहाँ पर देखोगे, in this poem Neruda talks about the necessity of quiet introspection with creating a feeling of mutual understanding about human beings. So that's a basic theme. He has taken 12 because 12 जो है, it symbolizes, it represents the numbers on clock. It represents the number of months, the zodiac sign, and that is why he has taken 12 as a figure. He says, I'll count up to 12. And for that one moment, we all will be quiet. For one moment in the entire world, there would be no barrier of language. There would be no harming of each other. Let us stop for 1 second and not move our arm so much. Matlab, let us not harm each other in any way. It would be an exotic moment. He calls that moment as a beautiful moment because there would be no noise. There would be no rush. There will be no jostle. There will be no hustle and bustle. We would all be together. Here he is giving the message of brotherhood. क्योंकि हम जब एक दूसरे को हार्म करते हैं तो हम एक दूसरे के खिलाफ हो जाते हैं. But that one moment we would all be together. We would be mutually understanding. But it would be a strange movement. पेपर में आया हुआ क्वेश्चन नहीं. Fishermen in the cold sea means the fishermen जो होते हैं, they are also for the people who exploit the nature, the people who exploit others. They would stop exploitation for a moment, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. The man would realize that the earth, we are not harming the earth or the marine, but we are harming ourselves. क्योंकि हम तो भाग रहे हैं, हमारे पास तो इतना टाइम ही नहीं है कि हम ये सोच सकें. Those who prepare green wars, war with gas, wars with fire, means those warmongers, those advocates of war. चाहे we are waging the war against the nature by cutting the forest, by polluting, or with the weapons. we would realize that victory is there, but there would be no survivor to enjoy them. And would put on clean clothes. Matlab, clean clothes here is a transferred epithet. Means they would understand, they would mutually understand, they would have the clarity of thoughts. And they would move in fraternity, doing nothing. In the shade, matlab, calmly. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. He is not advocating that there should be complete inactiveness, because inactivity is related to death. What he wants is mind meditation. What he wants is retrospection. What he wants is introspection. 2 marks का क्वेश्चन आता है, लाइफ इज व्हाट इट इज अबाउट. लाइफ का जो मूवमेंट है वो तो चलता ही रहेगा. इट कैन नॉट स्टॉप. लाइफ का जो मूवमेंट है वो स्टॉप नहीं होगा. इट वुड गो ऑन. यू कैन नॉट गो टू द बायगॉन एरा. चलो भाई, अब हमको मतलब कि आज हमने पैब्लो नेरूडा को पढ़ लिया है, हम पल्यूट नहीं करेंगे, आज से हम बैलगाड़ी में चलेंगे. Just imagine Varun sitting on a बैलगाड़ी and he is moving. कैसा लग रहा? Is it possible? No. We cannot go back. We need to develop, but we need to sustain our development. हमें इस नेचर को खराब किए बिना अपने डेवलपमेंट को रखना है, not at the cost of the nature, because the nature is not giving the cost. The cost is borne by us. I want no truck with death. Matlab, he is not advocating any kind of death. If we were not so single-minded, matlab, he says the humans are very selfish. Single-minded matlab selfish. About keeping our lives moving and मतलब हम अपनी जिंदगी को चलाते जा रहे हैं भीड़ में, बट हमें ये नहीं पता है कि हम जा कहाँ रहे हैं. We are just in a jostle of crowd, जहां पीछे से धक्का चल रहा तो हम चलते ही जा रहे हैं. We only are thinking about ourselves. We are not thinking about others. यहाँ others are not only the human beings, also the Mother Earth, the entire earth with whom we are sharing this earth. And for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt. मतलब हम खुद तो कुछ नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, we are not able to make ourselves understand. तो हो सकता है this silence may make us understand of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. हम जो है खुद को नहीं समझ रहे हैं. हम actual में we are not harming others. We are actually harming ourselves with death. When there would be no forest, when there would be so much of pollution, when there would be only war, then what will happen? We would not be there. So we have to understand. Then he moves towards थोड़ा सा वो पहले तो he is aggrieved. His grievance है उसमें, गुस्सा भी है, दुख भी है. He is anguished. उसका जो टोन है वो थोड़ा दुख वाला है. फिर वो कंसोल करता है. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. मतलब the earth can be a catalyst. The earth can be a teacher. It can give us the example of the nature, the seasons, the day and night, the rotation of the earth, the change of the season, the latent seeds born into crops. ये सब जो है they can teach us that death is not permanent, life is not permanent. This cycle goes on. Life hoti hai, fir death hota hai, fir this cycle goes on. So we need to understand, हमें cycle को रखना है. Now, पहले उसने कहा था we will. Now he says I'll count up to 12. I'm keeping, मतलब आप लोग अपने आप को retrospect करो. You keep quiet means you introspect and ask the question. And then I'll go and give this message to others. So that is the poem Keeping Quiet.